I am Michelle de Mello. I'm a recently qualified chartered accountant of November 2020 examination. I work at Deloitte as an assistant manager in the accounting advisory department. And I scored 79 in my economic laws elective paper. Let's start with the panelist. They'll introduce themselves. Maitri starts first.
Hi, my name is Maitri Vasani. I cleared in the Jan 2021 attempt. I got 68 in economic laws, and I am currently looking for opportunities. I am also pursuing CFA. So that's about me.
Next, Darshan.
Hello everyone, myself Darshan Dadda. I've cleared CA final in November 20 attempt. I've I've secured 60 marks in economic law, and currently I'm also looking for opportunities. Nikunj.
Hello everyone, my name is Nikunj Prajapati and I've cleared CA final examination in November 20 attempt. I've scored 82 in economic law. Currently I have joined Vedanta group. So that's it from my side.
Last, Chaitanya.
Hi everyone, Chaitanya Bhai this side. So I have cleared my CA final exams in November 2020 attempt. I have pursued my articleship from KPMG in the tax and regulatory department, and I am also currently looking out for opportunities in the industry.
Okay, so that's about it. I will be the moderator for today's session, and we have 4 panelists who just introduce themselves. Before we get started, let me give a disclaimer. As we all know, electing an elective paper is not a decision that we can take in a day's time. It requires analysis, talking to your seniors, and reading the past papers. Through Vision CA, our aim over here is to provide you with a series of elective papers so that you can analyze and you can know what is best for yourself. We do not encourage or persuade you to pick up any particular elective paper, but we are always there to guide. Also, in the course of this webinar, we might take the name of particular professors, but just to inform you, we do not recommend them or we do not advertise them. You can always watch their demo lectures on YouTube and you can take a decision which suits you the best. So I think we can get started. We'll take up the questions which were put up in the Google Forms. I've compiled some of them and we can start with it now. So question 1 is, a brief overview of the subject and why did you choose elective paper 60 as your elective subject? And I think everyone from the panelists can brief a bit about it, starting with Maitri.
Right, so I'll give you an overview of the subject at first. Now, economic law is basically divided into 6 chapters. They are IBC, that is Insolvency Bankruptcy Code. Then there is PMLA, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. FEMA, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act. Competition Act, Benami Act, and RERA, that is the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. Now, out of these 6 chapters, 3 come from the paper 4, that is a law paper. And about 80% of the portion is similar to what it was in paper 4. There is about 20% addition, but that is more of the procedural part, more of the composition, that part, which is not basically the core of the chapter. The concepts come from paper 4. The balance 3 chapters, that is RERA, Benami, and Competition Act, are completely new and they come from the paper 6D. As we all know, the format is you have to attempt 4 out of 5 questions, and there is 40 marks MCQ and 60 marks theory papers. Now, the type of questions that are asked usually come in combination, that is 2 chapters per question come in the paper. So that is why we need to be well versed and you cannot leave anything in option here. So that is a brief overview. Now, why I chose the subject is basically due to elimination and the fact that I did not have much time in my preparation originally for my May 20 attempt. So economic laws has relatively concise chapters, and it is easier to finish in much lesser time and gives you a lot of chances for scoring good marks. So that is why I selected economic laws. I think Darshan should go next.
Okay, so as correctly Maitri said, three out of the three out of six chapters in paper 6D, three chapters are common from paper 4, and I was very well versed and very familiar and very comfortable with all those three chapters in our paper 4. So I thought that it would be an advantage for me to pick paper 6D as my elective paper. And also, since it's a completely theory chapter, I was of the view that it would be very easy for me to crack this paper, because any question which the ICI may ask in the exams will be among the provisions only and won't be outside the provisions of the act. So I thought that since it's the open book test, so let's make the best opportunity out of it. So I chose paper 6D as my elective paper. And also, since I'm not very much comfortable with solving practical questions, so like this was so I decided to turn that my my hardness to solve practical chapter into my strength by choosing economic law.
Thanks. I think Nikunj can go next.
I totally agree with the points which Maitri and Darshan mentioned. So I don't think so I can add anything new. Yeah, so the basically the breakup which they told was totally correct. And obviously, if anybody has an interest over theory, he or she can definitely opt this subject. So that's it.
Chaitanya?
So, Maitri has given a brief overview of what economic law subject is all about, and it is concise about what exactly the subject is all about. So there are three acts common in paper 4, that is corporate law, and this was one of the things which I thought would be an added advantage over why choosing economic law in comparison to the other elective papers. Secondly, I also followed the elimination perspective, and that helped me to choose economic law and my liking towards the law subject. So these were the 2-3 factors which brought me to choosing economic law as my elective subject.
Okay, so as Maitri said, I would like to reiterate and give you a heads up. Although there are certain common chapters in normal law and the elective paper, there is a certain content which is not there in the normal law and which is extra in the elective paper, like in PMLA, FEMA, and IBC. There are extra content which you have to do specially for the elective paper. So it's not completely the same. There is some extra content. So that is one thing. And as the panelists said, they all had their own perception of how to select the elective paper, and that's about it. Moving on to the next question. When should one start with the subject, and how much time should one devote during the study leave? Maitri will take this up.
Right. So ideally, we should start studying the subject after you're once done with economic laws in paper 4. That is the 8-9 chapters that you have in economic laws paper 4. Once you're done with that, then taking up this is much more advisable because there's a lot of common content, like I said before. As well as once you set while you're studying paper 4, the rhythm is much more better when you're studying for paper 16. Now, that is when we should start. Ideally, this takes about 5 to 7 days to finish in the first reading, the whole subject. And the focus here should be studying everything, that is the content, and then solving case studies that is available to you. About 1 week should be enough because we have to focus on other subjects as well. And relatively, this is an easier paper in the sense because this is open book, so there is no mugging up that we need to do. So to give focus on other papers, this is a relatively easy chapter, easy subject, takes less time, and 5 to 7 days should suffice, in my opinion.
Okay, so to sum it up, first get done with your normal law papers and study the law properly, the normal law properly, and after that you can go on to your elective paper. It's not like first you have to start your elective. And yes, as Maitri mentioned, 5 to 7 days, but we all need to appreciate the fact that we all are unique. So
Right.
what might suit Maitri might not suit somebody else, and accordingly we can take a decision and plan accordingly for ourselves. So let's move on to the third question. From where did you do the amendments and type of case study questions asked? Chaitanya will take this up.
Okay. So I would like to break the question into two. Firstly, the amendment part. I had taken a particular professor classes, and he used to provide all the amendments simplified from what the institute's material and institute announcements used to provide. So there are two things. Firstly, if you're comfortable with reading the institute's material, then you can read the institute's material for all the amendments, and you can prepare your own notes. Or else then, if you have taken classes from any of the professors and if you feel comfortable of doing the amendments from his or her classes, the notes which they provide, that would be a good thing. Secondly, I used to listen to the amendment lectures also of the professor from whom I had taken the classes, of specifically regarding the amendments. So that had helped me in saving time, as to it wasn't a much effort from my side to read and then jot down what I require from the amendments perspective. Just that what the professor said, I need to pay attention to it, and my amendments part was done. Secondly, regarding the case study questions, I refer to the past year question papers and whatever the institute's material regarding the 6 case studies were. And so it basically that was only the material available regarding the case study perspectives, because only there were 3 attempts done prior to May 2020, that is November 2020 attempt for economic laws. So this was all what we had in our plate regarding preparation material. So that was the thing which I did from the case study perspective.
Chaitanya, which professor's videos did you watch for the amendments? Can you highlight that?
Okay, so there's a professor named Amit Popli. He's based in Delhi. So he used to provide his pen drive lectures to us. So I watched his lectures.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to add to this question of from where to do the amendments and the type of case studies asked? Or should I proceed?
Basically, the amendments that the ICI gives has a lot of repetition, at least for May and November 20. The amendments are very added up, and there's a lot of filtering that needs to be done. So for students, who don't have the time, who are in the crucial last 3-4 months of studies, I would always suggest to take up any professor that they feel comfortable with, and they usually have lectures on YouTube. So that is more advisable than doing them by themselves on through the ICI material, at least in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. It was very illustrative. To summarize, the amendments can be done from the ICI material, but that would be the bare law. So it depends upon you how in detail do you want to do the amendments. Secondly, there are professors who provide summary notes on the amendments. You can always refer that. Either they are video lectures or they are summary notes. And the type of case study are asked, I would like to highlight the fact that here in economic laws, it is not like they are going to ask you a particular case study based on one chapter. They can merge 3 to 4 chapters or 2 to 3 chapters accordingly. So do not go with the impression that, okay, this is a case study, it's going to be with that one particular chapter only. And that highlights the fact you cannot leave anything into option because it's all going to be into mix. So that's about it. The type of case studies is always something that is mixed up and not from a particular chapter. Moving on to the next question. A question about the presentation of the answers for elective paper, economic laws, an approach to the case studies, an approach to MCQs. Darshan will take this up.
Okay, so the presentation for answers of paper 6D economic law would be exactly the same as for paper 4. Like for any answer, we'll have to break up our answer in 3 parts: provisions, facts of the case, and conclusion. At least this is the format which I used personally in paper 4 also and in paper 6D also. So break your answer in 3 parts: provisions, facts of the case, and conclusion. And in provision, try to write the exact legal bare language from your textbook or your notes which you have carried for the exams. And in the other 2 sections, that is facts of the case and conclusions, uh, don't try to copy exact words from the provisions, but summarize the whole question in your own words as per your understanding, and then in conclusion give conclusion as per you. And no need to use a exact legal barrack language in last 2 sections of the answer. And also one more thing, uh, be it a paper, but your length of answer should be exactly proportional to the marks which is allotted to the question. Suppose it is a 3 marks question, so writing an answer which covers 3/4 of the paper would suffice. You don't need to compulsorily fill it to 1 page or 1.5 page. That does not makes any sense, and it just eats up your time. So proper length of the answer according to the which is allotted to it would be very crucial. And this was my point regarding presentation of answer. Now I did not study anything different in order to help me with my MCQs. What I did was whenever I was reading my notes, whenever I got any monetary provision or any penalties or time limit, something like that, then I used to have a different color of highlighter, let's say purple color. So I used to highlight all those monetary limits and time limits penalties with that different purple highlighter, and my regular highlighter was a different one, say yellow or a green. So in exam, if in MCQ a question is asked regarding time limit or a penalty regarding a particular chapter, so then my task was very simple. I just have to open that chapter and scroll and fastly move my pages to find that purple highlighter, and I can easily track that particular time limit or the penalty which is there.
I think Darshan's screen is frozen.
Yeah.
So could anybody else take this? No, I think he's fine now. Darshan, you can continue.
Okay. Uh, so for preparing for MCQs, you just need to make sure that your clarity of the provisions is very good, and you won't face any difficulties while preparing for MCQ. Now, how to attempt a case study. So do not start with reading the case study at all. First start by reading the descriptive questions which are there in that case study. So when you are also don't read the MCQs of the study in the first time. Firstly read all the descriptive questions of all the case studies, and when you read a particular descriptive question, you come to know that answer for that descriptive question, can it be given directly through the act without any reference to case study, or you need to make a reference to case study. So bifurcate the descriptive question in these two parts, with reference to case study or directly from provision. And after reading all the descriptive questions for all the case studies, then you make sure that what descriptive questions you think you know the best, and start your paper as per your choice of descriptive questions. Start your answer sheet with descriptive question. As in economic law, there are the OMR sheet is different for MCQs, and descriptive questions are written on a different sheet. So it doesn't matter how good are your MCQs, the examiner will only judge you with your descriptive questions. And as everyone says, the first impression is last impression. So if for the first 25 to 30 marks you create a good impression in the mind of examiner, then obviously he will be lenient while checking the other questions or the remaining questions. So this is how you should start economic law paper when you get the paper.
Thanks, Darshan. It was very illustrative. Would anybody else want to highlight upon their approach to case studies in the paper, so that maybe somebody else's approach might be different?
Yeah, I would like to add. So in the paper, we'll be given 5 case studies. So out of those 5 case studies, first we need to decide that what is the order of the case studies in which we are going to attempt the paper. So in order to decide that, first break up those case studies, as Darshan rightly said, in the descriptive part and the MCQs part. That is that means, for example, if the questions the descriptive questions of the case studies are those questions which you believe that you will be able to answer in a very proper and well structured manner, and which you can easily find. Those questions should be prioritized over the other questions. So for example, you decide that out of 5 case studies, these 2 case studies are the case studies in which you can answer all the descriptive questions. So then you should attempt those 2 case studies first, and then in the end, keep those case studies which you believe that the MCQs of those case studies are easy to answer, so that in the end moment, for example, I'll just talk in the time frame so that you can easily understand. The economic law paper, you'll be given 15 minutes time reading and then 4 hours of writing time. So in the 15 minutes time, obviously you are going to read the question paper. In the question paper, first read all the descriptive questions and understand, okay, these are the questions which I believe that okay, I can answer those questions, and accordingly decide the order. Don't read any case study. That is because if you read case study, in the end you'll just end up wasting time, because there might be questions which you can easily answer without even reading the case studies. To be honest, it is my paper of economic law, I just read only one case study out of all the 4 case studies I attempted, because that case study was relevant while answering the questions, because it has the name of the characters in the case study. So I was supposed to read the case study and then only answer. But the other 3 case studies, there was no reference of any character or any story in the case study. It was directly a provision, conclusion, and directly a provision and conclusion answer. So there is no there should be no time wasting on reading the case studies. Directly try to answer those case studies, and in the end, the time limit, basically when you start the first case studies, try to give a less amount of time, but I believe that the first case study will be solved in approximately 1 hour 15 minutes. The second case study, let's say you take the same amount of time, so basically you are done with around 2.5 hours. So now you are left with only 1.5 hours, and you have to attempt 2 case studies. So first try in that 1.5 hour or maybe 2 hours left, try to solve those case studies which has easy MCQs, so that you don't waste time in MCQs. So now suppose you are done with the MCQs, so you are only left with 30 marks descriptive paper, and according to the balancing time which you have left, try to attempt as much as case studies as much as questions possible, and then only you'll be able to attempt the whole paper. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Thanks, Nikunj. To summarize it, the approach towards case study, I like the fact that you both highlighted that we should not jump upon the case study first because it is huge, and say if the content is 100%, not the entire 100% of the case study would be relevant. So yes, to summarize, always focus on the questions first. And as Darshan very much well said, that first impression is the last impression. So read those descriptive questions and attempt that question first, which you think we're most confident with. So yes. Moving on to the next question. Is classes important for economic law or self-study can be done? Nikunj will take this up.
Okay, so on a personal note, I didn't take any classes for economic law. I prepared it on my own. And to be honest, I was very familiar with the act and reading of law. So that is the reason I didn't take any classes. So the economic law, there are three chapters, that is three acts which are covered in paper 4. So you are not supposed to read those acts. That is, I mean that you are not supposed to give a good amount of efforts to it. The 80% of the provision is same as what it is in paper 4. So there is only 20% addition, and you can easily read that extra part, and you can easily cover those topics. Talking about the remaining 3 chapters, that is RERA, that is a Real Estate Act, Benami Act, and Competition Act. RERA is such topic which is very easy. Even if you are having a basic reading of law, you can easily understand the whole real estate topic. There is no hard and fast rule that okay, there is a tough legal language in it. It is a very simple act. It is basically it is a story type of chapter. That is, a builder just builds a building. What if he doesn't is not able to deliver the possession?
I missed last line.
Okay, from the RERA part.
So it doesn't matter when you are from it. It's more of a tax law compliance.
I didn't get you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll continue. So in the RERA part, basically it is a story type chapter. So basically we have to just read about the facts that okay, first a builder takes the contract of building a project. Basically it's called as a promoter. and then what if he's not able to deliver the possession? In this way, the whole chapter continue. Talking about the other chapter, Benami Act, it is a pure topic which has a pure income tax provisions. That is, what if a person declares a Benami Property Act? What if a person has a Benami property? How the income tax officer are going to seize the property? Do they have powers to do that? So these are having, if you are comfortable with direct tax, so there are majority provisions are same only, just that it has a different level of understanding and different level of officers. Nothing else. Rest all the story is same. That is seizure, search, and etc. Next is Competition Act. A Competition Act requires a good amount of understanding, because in questions they might ask you what type of competition is existing in the market. So I was little worried about this topic, so I referred some of the videos from YouTube, and that helped me gain understanding about the competition, type of competition, and the flow of chapter basically. Rest I did all the 6 chapters from myself only, and I was very well versed with preparing my own summary notes in case some topic had a lengthy provisions. I was able to summarize those lengthy provisions. I'll share those summarized notes in the later session. As of now, I will just say that I believe that all the 6 chapters can be easily managed and prepared if you are having a basic understanding of law. That is, 3 chapters are from paper 4 and 3 chapters are very easy. You may try to prepare it from yourself in case if you are comfortable with law. So that's it from my side.
Okay, thanks, Nikunj. To reiterate, economic law self-study or classes, there is no definite answer to the same. Like I said, to each one his own. Whatever suits you the best, you can probably take that up. As Nikunj said, the pros and cons of it, and he did a mix-up of self-study as well as video lectures. So you could adopt something like that, or you could adopt wholly classes or wholly self-study. It depends upon you. Next question. What material did you refer and carry for economic laws? Should I carry normal law books too? Nikunj and Maitri will take this up. So I think Maitri can start first and then Nikunj.
Right. So the material that you were supposed to refer and carry. So if you're doing classes, and classes notes are very important, because that is where you're understanding things from initially, and that is where your majority of your notes are. So you have to carry that. Carry the ICI module and refer through the ICI module if you're self-studying, but just keep it with yourself even when you go into the classroom, because there might be certain subjects which are left out from your classes notes but are covered in the module. There is no thing that is going to come out of the module, so a module is a must. I also would recommend to carry a question bank of all the case studies that you find. That is around 30-35 case studies that are given till now. I am not exactly sure about the number, but I would highly recommend carrying that to the examination hall. This is primarily because a number of times it happens that the exact case study comes into the question paper, which is come before, which is given as an MTP or as an example, has come before. Example, in Jan 21, the fifth case study, 25 marks, was asked in the May 19 attempt. The names were not even changed. So those 25 marks are literally bonus for you after that, once you recognize that this is from the previously given case studies. So that is extremely important in my opinion. I think you should also carry your normal law books, not the content, because content is actually the same, but the questions. What happens is the 4-mark question that you're given as a separate question in paper 4, that comes as a part of the paper 60 case study. So a separate MCQ or a separate 2 marks question is drafted out of that paragraph. So that is why I think normal law books, the question book that you have, you should carry it to your exam hall as well. And there was this thing about the difference between, so ICI has provided 7 case studies for each and every elective, and they have also given case laws. So those are 2 different things. The case studies are for people to solve, their candidates to solve, and case law is something is the normal case laws that we usually refer to, but now there's a lot of volume to those case laws. So again, you have certain professors who give you a summarized version of those case laws. There's video lectures available. So I would highly recommend you refer that, because I would not recommend you to solve a lot of time behind those case laws. Case laws, if you don't refer or if you don't write in your exams, it will hardly cost you 1 or 2 marks, but the content and the volume that is given is not proportionate. So that is what, if it strikes you in the exam hall, then good, fair enough, it will give you good marks. But if not, then it is not a hard and fast option.
Okay, and I would like to also add that institute sometimes release a journal, and in those journal there are some additional case studies. So it is not applicable to only economic law. There are other elective papers also. Institute keeps on adding some case studies for all the elective. So I really recommend just keep yourself updated, that in case if there is any case studies which are updated in institute's journal, you should have a note of it, and you should take the printout of it and carry it in examination. Like in November 20 attempt, there was a case law journal which has 3 case studies. So we took the printout and we carried it in my examination.
But please make sure that it is amended properly as per the current provisions, because sometimes then it becomes very difficult, and then you mess up in your exam also. That is about it.
Yes.
Okay, so to summarize it, regarding the material, it could be either the ICI module that is provided, it could be classes material that is provided, and also you may take your normal law books. It can be beneficial to you, you never know. And there is no limit in taking the number of books, so there is no harm. And answering, should I carry the normal law book? Yes, it answers it. Also, I'd like to highlight the fact which Maitri said, there's a difference between the case studies and the case law. Case studies are basically for your practice. It would have questions which are similar, or the format would be similar to what is asked in your exam. And case laws are something, as in something that we get in direct taxes, this versus this, and they would explain what happened in the particular case laws. So I referred the summary book of Sandhya Saraf. In that, he has summarized case laws very much in a concise way, and I found it very much easy. I was able to go and grab the case laws when I was sitting in the exam, because I went through the summary notes twice. So that was beneficial for me. Moving on to the next question. How did you revise on the last day, 1.5 days before the exam? Chaitanya and Darshan can take this up. So Chaitanya can start.
Okay, so assuming that you have got 1.5 days before your paper 60 elective economic laws, so you must have come from the SCMP paper, and there must be a definitely load of the huge DT paper lying on your head of paper 7. But assuming that you have 1.5 days, I would strongly recommend to use and utilize those 1.5 days fully for paper 60, irrespective of the fact what your preparation for DT is. So now going ahead on how to approach the revision perspective in these 1.5 days, you need to understand that what the content and what the scope of each act is, like regarding maybe RERA or Competition Act. These are basically constituency acts on which direct questions are very much possible rather than case study type of questions. So maybe investing time in these acts a little bit less as compared to IBC, PMLA, FEMA, and Benami. So these acts require thinking, these acts require case study and analytical mindset. So practicing in all these 4 acts would be very much needed in comparison to competition and the RERA Act. That is, that there have been cases where there have been direct questions on these 2 acts as well. So balancing, maybe after the SCMP paper, you could finish off one of the acts in which you are very much confident about of the 4 analytical acts, and then getting up early morning in the next day, you could take up maybe a lighter act of the RERA and the other Competition Act, and then again switching on to IBC and FEMA, the 2 giants of the economic law paper. Majorly, these are the 2 acts which have a lot of content in comparison to the other 4. So I would strongly recommend to focus your attention on FEMA and IBC, as they have a lot of content, as well as from the practical standpoint also they carry a lot of weightage. And then going ahead, PMLA must be a cakewalk, as it is maybe 80% of the portion is already covered in paper 4, that is corporate law. Then going ahead with Benami, and then maybe you could finish up with either whatever is left, maybe RERA or any of the act which you had not done yesterday. Then you might solve some case studies, 1-2 case studies for just a revision perspective about the time management. Maybe it might be possible for you to jot down each and every question, whether you are able to complete in the given allotted time. That would help. Secondly, if you have time in your hand, then I would suggest you to just go through few MCQs which you must have marked during your revision, and to solve those tricky MCQs or those tricky descriptive questions. And again, I would feel that after covering the revision of all the 6 acts, going once again just to know about what exactly each section talks about, not that you should understand what exactly the section talks about. You must be aware of what exactly the section is all about. Maybe a 2-3 liner summary about each section is what, maybe a voice note, or maybe just writing besides the section would help as a final revision. This has helped me gain confidence in the last minute revision as well. So this is how I basically revised on the 1.5 days time given to me. So now coming to my attempt, I had an extra leave before the paper 60 elective. So then if you have an extra day in hand, and if you're confident enough of clearing the entire revision of paper 60 in 1.5 days, then I would recommend to maybe spend that one day in preparing for your direct taxes, because then again it is a huge subject, and keeping the entire direct taxes after coming from paper 60 would be a task. So I would not tell you to time about what exactly which paper would be difficult and to invest a particular time in a particular subject. It is about you, about your confidence, about your preparation. But then again, if you have 2.5 days, then maybe spending one day just before starting your paper 60 preparation sounds good to me, or to spend for the DT paper. But if you have 1.5 days, I would strongly recommend to spend those 1.5 days concentrating on the paper 60 economic law, because if you think practically, both the subjects have an 100 marks weightage. So I feel that equal justice should be given, and so yeah, that's it. You should spend it.
Darshan, next.
Okay, so like my approach towards 1.5 days is completely different what Chaitanya said. Like, like Chaitanya said, we were having one extra leave before economic law. So I spent 1.5 days doing DT, and I spent the last one day just before the exams for economic law. And also, if I did not get that one extra leave which I had got, then my my preparation would be such that I would spend the day on which I wrote the costing paper. I would study DT on that day, and for the next day I would study economic law for the whole day, because as per me, in economic law only 3 chapters are new, and 3 are from paper 4. So this was my this is completely my approach. And what Chaitanya said is not wrong, but uh, like when I was doing economic law, so I had my view that all the chapters which are there in paper 4, I will not revise it during paper 6, because during paper 4 I have revised them very thoroughly, and I know what concept is there and at what page that concept is there in my book. So so in my mind, I had to prepare only for 3 chapters, and additional part for the remaining 3 chapters of paper 4. So I spent the half day of costing paper for DT, and the whole other day for economic law. And while doing economic law, I first went through, I glanced through the provisions of all the chapters during the day. And once my glance from all the chapters was over, then I started seeing the 7 case studies which the institute has given. So I know, so then I know that if by chance institute gives a similar question in the exam, then I should know that yes, I am having a answer prepared for that similar question. So I need not spend any more time in exam thinking what to write, because I am having exact answer for it. And after solving those 7 case studies, what I did was during my study period I had solved MTPs. So any new questions which I found in MTP, which I found like I should carry it with my exams, I referred them one day before my exam, so that when I'm going for exam I know what material am I having, and what all the questions are there in that material. So this was my approach.
Okay, thanks Darshan and thanks Chaitanya. To summarize it, revision on the last day, 1.5 days before the exam, would differ on person to person, or depending upon the approach they decide. It could be using summary notes, it could be reading from the module and not reading the entire thing because it's huge. You could probably highlight important stuff during your studies and then read the highlighted stuff. And as Darshan said, you could go through some case studies, you could go through some MTPs, but I would recommend you all to not go through the MTPs or a day before the exam if you haven't gone through it before. So it would be something new. So please do not perform a stunt like that. If you have to go through the MTPs, go through it during your study leave, and that would help you gain some confidence, and then you can just revisit it before your exams. So that's about it. Also, I like what Darshan said, that since there are some certain common topics for 60 paper, you could just brush upon the same and then you could focus more on the chapters which are not common. The next question: did you appear for any mock test? If yes, how many are ideally required? Nikunj, can you please briefly sum up on this
Okay.
about the
So,
MCQs, MTPs?
okay. So in MTP papers are basically the papers which institute uploads on the website, and they give you options. Like in COVID times, they are not giving any options to actually sit into the institute's building and write those paper. So what you are supposed to do is you can write max 3 MTP papers. And to write MTP papers, there are only 2 basic objectives. First, you need to understand that, okay, you need to write whole 100 marks paper. That is the time management is very necessary while writing MTP papers. You will understand, okay, this is how I'm supposed to write the whole question. This is how I'm supposed to attempt the exams. And this is how I'm supposed to present my answers. And this is how I'm supposed to complete my paper. So first is this objective, and second, you'll know where you went wrong. You'll know, okay, this was the question, and I thought a very different way, and I attempted in a very different manner. The provision was supposed to be this, and I wrote another provision. So you'll understand that, okay, these are my mistakes, and you need to note down those mistakes. So writing MTPs is totally important, and basically the 25 marks case study format came after May 19. So the relevant MTP which you are supposed to write is November 19, May 20, and only November 20. Don't go beyond that while writing MTPs. In case if you are done with all the materials of institute, you may refer those MTPs of before May 19 and before attempts. But I don't see any point of writing those papers because they are in 50-50 marks case study format. So you won't have the exact taste of examinations, and that is how you are supposed to write MTPs. If I give my personal example, I wrote the November 19 MTP at my home, and I was not able to attempt the last 25 marks case study. So I was I was lacking how to write paper, and I wasn't having any technique of how to approach this paper. So I learned through my mistakes. I got an idea, okay, this is how I'm supposed to decide a priority order. This is how I can save the time, and this is how I can attempt the majority marks of paper. So then I came up with strategy. I shared it with Darshan, and then we solved the papers in that manner. And that is how you are supposed to write MTPs.
Okay, so to sum it up, mock test paper would always give you a leverage on the basis of knowing where you are doing a mistake, and it would help you certainly with your time allocation. So that's about it.
Michelle, I would
Next,
like to add one thing to what Nikun said.
yes, Darshan.
Okay. So okay. So in May 19 attempt MTP, there was a full question on FEMA, which I think is not covered even in the material of institute. So I would request you guys, if you are taking paper 6 days or elective paper, so just go through that case study of FEMA in May 19 paper and take that printout and take that video in exam. So in case if institute mm, tries to target FEMA as a difficult part of economic law, so that you may have certain answers which the institute has asked in past, and those answers are not yet incorporated in the material, so it can be useful for you guys.
Okay, thank you, Darshan. Moving on
Actually,
to the next.
sorry, Michelle.
Yes.
Basically, he mentioned the wrong attempt. It was May 18 question paper of examination. So you may refer May 18 question paper of institute, and it has IBC and FEMA. These both case studies, that is case study 2 and case study 3, I think. These both case studies are very good. You'll get to know a deep understanding of the concept, and you may take printout also as an additional material.
Okay, so guys, please make a note of it. It was May 18 question paper, case study 2 and 3. So do go through it since it's very much insightful. Moving on to the next question. Is remembering and retaining economic law important, considering it is an open book exam? If yes, how do we do it? Maitri and Darshan will take that up.
Right. So remembering and retaining the economic law portion, per se, you don't have to remember it, mug it up like you do in your paper 4, because obviously you have books available to you to refer. At the same time, I would suggest you at least, you have proper understanding of what is asked of you. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि you're looking at everything for the first time, or you're completely out of sorts as to what the question is asking, and you're not able to refer back to your material. Even though material is given to you, you will not have the time to look into the books for every question, because you will run out of time otherwise. So at least for the basic concepts, you should not have to refer back to the material. If you do that, then you will definitely run out of time, and the last case study will be exam. You will not be able to attempt. So that is something that one must remember. And if I would always suggest while you're studying, write small summaries in the margin, so that even though you want to refer the book while you're giving answers, you can always refer to that summary and then delve into the section, because looking into bare text will always be very time consuming and will not help you in the 4 hours of your exam. Those margin notes will help you to track down everything, as well as the index, of course. But then index also at some point of time becomes very overwhelming, and you do not have the patience to refer that index. So when you're flipping through your pages, or notes in those margin will definitely help you.
Okay. So as correctly Maitri said, you don't need to remember the provisions, and you don't need to mug it up, but you need to have a conceptual understanding of all the provisions, so that you know what exactly does a particular chapter comprise of, and what all are the provisions in that chapter. And and in case a question comes in exam, then by reading that question, you should you should be able to quickly understand, is it from the provisions which you have studied, or is it something which you have not studied at all while preparing for the exams. Because if while reading a question you are not sure whether this was in your notes or not, then it takes a lot of time for you to go through notes to search that particular thing which may not be in your notes. So you should have a thorough understanding of what all provisions do you have in your notes, and should have a conceptual understanding for it. And as Maitri said, summarization of paragraphs and barracks is very important, so as to understand the provision and quickly revise it one day before the exam.
Okay, so to summarize it, the key is not exactly retaining everything, probably because there are certain common chapters, so that is obviously retained by us, and at least to the basics, as Maitri said, focus on the summarization part. In the exam hall, when you are sitting, you must know which concept is located where. So you need to be well versed with that particular module or particular study material that we are referring. Moving on to the next question. How important is preparation of an index for economic laws? Chaitanya can take that up.
So we have heard from Maitri, Darshan and Nikunj regarding making a small summary besides the provisions as to it would make it quick for the next time revision. So making an index, the sole perspective is revising in a very less time when you revise it next time. So what my approach was towards making an index was that for each and every section of each and every act, I wrote the section number. Besides it, I wrote what does that section say about in my own language. So I was aware of the fact what exactly the section states instead of reading the entire section again. There are few sections in every act which are direct sections, maybe regarding the composition or the constituency or the definitions, etc. So maybe for those sections you just name the section and you leave it. But the core sections of every act would require stating the index content in a very simplified manner in your own language, so that when you revise next time, it becomes easier for you and it saves a lot of time. So this is one of the approach which usually a student follows. Second approach is if you have taken a professor's notes or if you have taken a professor's lectures, there are various times where the professor himself provides an index for his notes as well. So this is a second thing. So basically making an index would help you in revising next time in a quick manner, and you become aware of what exactly the content of every section is.
Darshan can go next.
Okay. So at this topic also, my view is completely opposite from what Chaitanya said. Like, I myself have not prepared any index for going through my notes, because I myself had the confidence that like if I've read a topic or a chapter 3 times or 2 times, then I know what concept is there in what part of my notes, like which page, left side, right side, at the top of the page or in the bottom. So like I know myself, like if I've read a note for 3 times, then I am well versed with what is there in my notes and at what page. So I did not find any need to make an index for myself. But yes, I do know a few of my friends who have made index, and they benefited from it during exams, because they were not able to recollect where is themselves. So they referred to their index and they were able to locate it easily. So the
Okay.
position of index
Yes.
is depends from person to person and the style of studying.
Yes, exactly. I agree with Darshan. So the preparation of index depends solely upon you. It could be your own handwritten index. It could be a class's professor, or you could not make any index at all. Personally, indexation helped me with locating a particular concept, because I know the question relates to a so and so concept, and to locate the page number, the indexation helped me a lot. Moving
Well,
on to
for
the yes,
I'd
Maitri.
like to add, it's basically for the parts that you don't remember. See, 60-70% of the core content is something that is always asked in every question that is put up by the ICI. But there are certain sections that we don't pay importance to as much as the other sections are the core sections. So for those sections which are not paid attention by us to an equal amount, the index will help because to locate them. For example, PMLA has a lot of small sections, but quite a number of them. So to locate that, index is required and even it is helpful during the exams. If you do not want to spend so much time making an index, it is always advisable because there's a lot of indexes that are given by the professors as well for even for ICI modules, so you can always refer that.
Thanks, Maitri. Moving on to the next question. What extra preparation did you do apart from the module? Nikunj can take this up.
Okay, so basically in the module, you're supposed to read each and every provision, but you might find some of the provisions are way too lengthy and you might not be able to revise it in a less span of time. Like in case of Benami Property Act, a section exceeds even a 1 page or even a 2 page. So you might, I prepared a summarized notes for it, I'll show it on the screen. I think host should give me access to share screen, I think.
Just give me 2 minutes. Okay,
So-
so in that while you can continue.
Yeah, so I prepared summarized notes for it, and because of those notes, I was able to revise that provision in a very less span of time. Like for example, in the first reading, if I took 10 to 15 minutes to just read that sections for one underline or understand what is the flow of this section. So basically in Benami Act and even in competition, the whole section, even a single section has a lot of amount of flow. Like for example, first this officer, then this time limit, then you have to respond in so and so time limit. So you might be not able to recollect the flow in the next reading, because you need to give exact amount of time in that revision also in order to understand that flow. So I prepared a summarized notes. It is I'll share it in the screen once I get access. And the second thing I did was the 7 case studies which institute released, and even the MTPs which I solved. So I made on the top of the index, top of the MTP, and even on the separate page, I wrote down the separate summarized points of each and every question, or maybe each and every case study. Like for example, a case study 1 talks about the time limit assessing initiating officer can issue notice, or maybe a power of initiating officer, or maybe a public district magistrate, or maybe a seizure in PMLA. So I wrote one-liner or two-liner summarized points of the respective case study. I'll show it again if I get the share screen.
Okay, so Nikunj, actually, it's my mistake. I have not enabled screen sharing for this meeting. You can put it on the group, so participants have that as a resource with them.
Okay, I'll put it on in the group. You can refer
Yes.
it, and it will help you how to write or how to make your own notes. In case if you are not comfortable, you can see any video, and maybe any professor might have uploaded a summarized notes for it, whatever suits you. So I'll put it in the chat box. You may refer it.
Okay, so regarding the extra material, would anyone like to add upon it? Just a small brief, a quick brief upon it.
Right. So I think Sanidhya Saraf has uploaded certain lectures about for 20-25 minutes per chapter, which I would recommend people to use as for extra prep, because that is something, even when you're doing your daily activities, you can always listen to them, and, because it helps in memorizing those certain concepts that you might have missed while studying. That is one thing I would recommend people to use.
Okay, thanks, Maitri. So I'd like to finish up the webinar, and I'd like to add a little upon this extra material. I personally did not use any extra material apart from the case laws. For me, the module was sufficient. So again, to reiterate, you better decide what is best for you, and accordingly take an informed decision. So I think we can put an end to the webinar, but before that, let's take up the questions which are on the chat. Okay, so there is a question from Kirti. She says, if I am solving the case study digest, then whether it is necessary to solve past papers, case studies, MTPs, RTPs. I think I'll answer this. The case study digest, probably it would be a professor's case study digest, right? So in that case, I would recommend you to at least go through 1 or 2 MTPs, and for your information, there are no RTPs when it comes to economic laws. There are only MTPs. And since the MTPs come straight from the ICAI, we would recommend to at least view 1 or 2 so that you get an idea about the format and the type of questions asked. Next question. Just give me a minute. Hi Chaitanya, when you said you summarized the section, can you give me an example? Also, how many revisions of economic law did you do? So just give a quick brief of it, Chaitanya.
Okay, so prior to that, Nikunj has uploaded his summarized notes. so you can have a glance through it. So summarizing the section basically means as I mentioned, the core sections of a particular act. So summarizing it in my own language and stating what exactly the section means, so that I could have a better understanding, and there isn't any need to read the entire act, bare language of the act again. Regarding how many revisions I did for economic law, if my attempt would have happened in May 2020, then maybe I couldn't have done more than 3 revisions. But as the attempt got postponed 4 times and it got extended to November 2020, I guess 5 to 6 revisions must have had happened in total. Yeah.
Okay, so there's an update over here. The case study digest is the one that is provided for the May 21 attempt onwards. It is given by the ICAI. However, still I would stick to my question. If time permits, I would still recommend you all to go through at least 1 or 2 NTP so that you'll get a better idea, and for better practice, it's always recommended. And there is a question by Darshan. He says he's giving group 2 directly. How many days I should be preparing for economic law? Okay, so Darshan, that question is very subjective. It would depend upon you and how well you are prepared for taking up that particular elective paper and upon your own strategy. So we are always there to guide you. If you need more guidance, you can have a one-on-one, but this is a very subjective question, so I cannot give you a particular answer to that.
But I just like to add that please do not neglect the paper six because see, this is a paper which will probably grant you an exemption and make you clear your group 2, because other papers are much more higher in their content volume. So do not neglect this, saying that this is an open book paper, so we'll manage it in the paper hall. That doesn't happen, and those 4 hours are also effectively less while you're solving those case studies. 90 out of 100 people will fall short of time while they're writing their papers. So please do not neglect it, and that is the reason a lot of people pass the group 2, and it is quite important.
Okay, thanks, Maitri. There's another question by Darshan. He asks for IBC and FEMA chapter, I should refer which professor's lecture. Okay, if someone could suggest him, but this is only a suggestion and not a recommendation. So Darshan, that would depend on your choice ultimately. But yes, if somebody could just give him a quick brief about the options that are available.
Okay. So there are various professors' revision lectures uploaded on YouTube. So if you ask me specifically, Amit Popli sir has uploaded his revision lectures on YouTube. But then again, it might be very specific to me, as I had taken his pen drive lectures and I was comfortable with the style of his teaching, and his notes were already in hand with me, so that they were mapped with the what revision lectures you took. But I guess there are various other professors' lectures also available on YouTube.
I would also suggest Arpita Tulsian, because the way of teaching that she follows is basically more of a story. It is much easier to remember while you're retaining so much information altogether. So that is a suggestion from my side.
Okay, I think that answers your question, Darshan. And I think Rachna also has a similar question regarding the professors. So I hope that answers your question as well, Rachna. Moving on to the next. Is selecting an elective subject like economic law or international taxation depends on the level of difficulty of previous attempt. Okay, so that certainly does not depend upon the level of difficulty of the previous attempt, because the next attempt is always uncertain. We do not know whether the next paper would be easy or whether it would be difficult. So we cannot actually do this kind of permutation combination. And yes, selecting an elective paper, as I said in the beginning, it would require analysis, talking to your seniors, reading the past papers, and knowing what is best for you. So this is a very subjective question. And but certainly you cannot select a particular elective paper depending upon the difficulty of last year. That is not a criteria for selecting the elective paper. This is one thing I can.
So whosever question was this, if you have any specific situation and you want guidance from us, you can definitely connect with us one-on-one. We'll be happy to understand your situation and help you select a suitable elective.
Okay, so I think that's about it. I do not see any other questions in the chat box nor in the group. So I think we can end our session. And I hope we provided you all with a good insight about 6D, and this will help you facilitate your selection about the elective paper. In case you'll have more queries, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much. And once again, a disclaimer, even though we have taken the name of professors, we do not advertise or recommend any of them. You can go through their video lectures and demo lectures and take a decision that is best for you. Thank you.
Hey guys, so just a small announcement to make here. Vision C has come up with one-on-one mentoring sessions where we'll be providing one CA mentor to you whom you can reach out to for any doubts. So do visit our Instagram page. This video will also be up on YouTube. You can check the description of this video and do register for one-on-one mentoring, of course, completely free of cost. And if you like this video, share it with all your friends. Stay tuned to our channel, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. You can drop out.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.